Well, I'm super blessed to be here at a Wise Woman Builds Her House conference. Not only as the Ruta Cafes put this on, but I'm so blessed to just be here as a speaker. Normally, I'm just emceeing us through the whole thing, but I really felt that this was a topic that most of us need to get a grip on. And I'm going to go through this quick. And we'll do it another time at a little slower pace. But today, what I want to do is I just want to talk about healing, and I want to talk about right now the healing that's going to happen in your life, in your families, and in your hearts. And so I joke and say, this is my name's Charlie, and this is the diary, and I am a recovering control freak. And this is my part of my diary that I want to share with you. And I'm going to be very transparent and let you know of a lot of things that happened in my life. Oh, there was a time when I spent some time and I'm going to stop my sharing here because I want to see your faces for this. There was a season. I don't even know if you guys have even seen any of that. There was a season. I don't think so. There was a season when I was, even worse than I think I'm on the road to recovery now. But there was a time when I felt like I literally had to change everything, do everything, fix everything, because everyone needed my help. Like they needed me to help them, right? And I know that for me, he speaks to me through little Viewmasters. So if you're old enough, you know that little camera, remember, and you'd put the little cassette and the little thing would spin around. Well, that's how he would speak to me. And in that snapshots that he would give me, he can say those pictures really are worth 1,000 words to me. So one day when I was deciding that, I mean, literally, I had to deal with something with my husband. He was not listening. He was not paying attention. He needed my help. He was a hot mess. And God wasn't. I don't know why God wasn't changing him, but because I was praying and praying and praying for God to change him. And if you go all the way back to Keisha's session, you'll see what we really need to be praying is, Lord, change me. So instead of praying that, Lord, change me, which I knew better, I was having a full prayer meeting that he needed to change my husband. This man needed to know what was going on. He wasn't praying enough. He wasn't worshiping enough. And obviously he wasn't reading his Bible enough, or he would know the things that he needs to get done. So while I'm doing that, I was actually out in my yard and I was pulling weeds and I was taking care of my flowers. And I spotted over in my neighbor's yard, I spotted this weed that was growing up. And one of the things I know about my neighbor is how much that she would pride herself in being able to have a beautiful yard that people actually went by and commented on because it was like award winning. It was so beautiful. Well, I was noticing this weed and I'm thinking, she obviously has not seen this weed, but it is like a sore thumb. Like, should I do something? Like, I feel like I should do something. Like, I probably shouldn't just wait for her to come and see it. And by the time she sees it, it's going to be too late. Everybody's going to see this weed and I'm going to need to take care of this for her. So as I start to get up, and I start to go over I'm going to have to Rambo around things and get it just to get to this weed, right? I'm going to have to go pick up this weed. The Father spoke to my heart and he's like, it's not your weed to pull. And I was like, what? What do you mean it's not my weed to pull? And I knew what he meant because I got that little flash, that little Viewmaster flash. And what he showed me was, it's not your weed to pull. And instantly I was reminded of the parable of the wheat and the tares. And I'm going to share now I'll do a better job. I'll share my screen with you now. I was instantly reminded of the story of the wheat and the tares. And you find that in Matthew 13:24-30. And, let's just let's see if I can read it, if I can see myself here. But the kingdom of heaven is like a farmer who planted a good seed in his field. But that night, while the workers slept, his enemy came in and planted weeds. Among the wheat, they slipped away. Very strategic, right? When the crop began to grow and produce again, the weeds also grew up in there. So the farmer's workers went to him and they said, "Sir, the field where you planted the good seed, it's growing weeds. Where did they come from? An enemy has done this." "Should we pull the weeds?" they asked. "No," he replied. "You'll uproot the wheat if you do. Let them both grow together until it's time for the harvest. And then I'll tell the harvesters to sort the wheat and the tares and then bundle them, burn them, and put the wheat in the barn. So this is what I thought I was going to be doing for my friend. I thought I was going to be going into her yard and I was going to be secret, sneak around, and I would just take my little tool and I would just go in there and I would quickly get the little weed out, and then I would just escape, and she would never, well, of course she would know, because I would need to tell her, hello, she needed to know what a great job I did for her. I would need to tell her I pulled out this beautiful weed. But what the Father showed me was that if I did, that's not what it was going to look like. If I went in to take out that weed, actually it would be more actually what it was going to look like. And what he showed me was so many times in my life when I thought this is what I was doing, in situations in my life, in relationships, in friendships, at my work, in ministry. I mean, I'm telling you, the pictures never stopped. They were just coming and coming and coming, of all the things like, oh, and this, oh, and don't forget this, oh, and don't forget this, oh yeah, and don't forget this, oh yeah, and then there's this. But this is what it actually was looking like. Every time I would go into a situation, I'm thinking I'm helping and I'm doing all these great things for these people. But what ended up happening is that my sense of having to control things was actually causing so much damage. He reminded me of friendships that are torn apart, that left such a big hole that I could never fill in, because I was helping them, because they needed my information. And currently, he showed me what I was trying to do with my husband was this very same thing. As I am beseeching the throne room, telling him all the things that he needed to do and how I needed to explain to him what he needed to do, because he needed to get his life right. He needed to read more, do more, sing more, whatever. This is what was actually happening. In the midst of me thinking I could pull that one weed up and hold it up and be like, I got it. I got it. I got the weed. I would look around me and see that there was total devastation. And I don't know if you can relate to this, but I know a lot of you might have an issue with control where you think this is what you're doing, but this is actually what's happening in your life. And like I said, I could see where I was doing this with friendships, where I was helping them with their kids because they needed to know that their child was a mess. And I had the answers. I had the ability to share with them all the ways that they should fix this incident with their child, and step in to pull a weed that wasn't mine to pull. Something that I thought I was helping them because I didn't want them to be embarrassed. And I promise you, my heart was always to help. I didn't think I was being, well, okay, maybe I knew I was being a little bossy, but I realized that in every situation that I left, people weren't like happy that I had been there when I was coming in to show them this thing that needed to be fixed, because I'm a troubleshooter. It was ended up, I was making this destruction like this. It happened in ministries. It happened at work. I remember having incidences work that he was showing me in this, while I'm gardening, I have these things flashing. He showed me an incident that happened once at a work where there was this big thing between these people. And I was like, they are the injustice of this. There is so much injustice here. They need my help. So I stepped in to speak for them. I stepped in to be able to share with the boss what was really going on, because obviously they didn't feel that they had a voice. So they needed me to be their voice. So I stepped in them to advocate, to do the right things. And what ended up happening is everyone ended up being mad at me. Not only were my bosses upset with me because I was being nosy, but they were upset with me because I was bringing this to them and it wasn't my business. And the people who I thought I was advocating for, they didn't even want me to advocate for them. They just wanted to complain in the back room around the table at the lunchroom. They didn't want to do anything about it. But I thought it was my weed to pull. It was in relationships with friendships, like I said, and then now it was happening in my marriage. I've seen it happen in my family where that was going on. And one of the things is, the bottom line of all of this, the root of all of it, is control. It's the spirit of control where you think you need to come in and you need to control things that you don't really need to control. The fruit of the Spirit is self-control, and he's the one who controls that. The fruit of the Spirit is not bossy control, where we could jump in and we're going to be bossy and we're going to take care of things and troubleshoot. I don't know. I can't see the chat right now, but I want to know. I need you to chat in here. Yes, I understand this is hitting me because I have an issue sometimes. Like I can say, hi, my name is Charlie and I'm a recovering control freak. I need to know if any of you have an issue maybe with this control addiction. Sometimes this control addiction can look really covert. Like the covert meaning like there's something happening with somebody and this, like in this picture, she's going to go by and just spray it and leave. She's not going to rip it up out of the ground. She's just going to spray a little comment, or maybe she's going to make a little eye roll, right? She's going to do something to bring the attention so they have to deal with it. I don't know what that looks like in your life. For me, it looked like oh, do you really think that's a good idea? So tell me more about what you were thinking when you made that choice. Or again, the eye roll. Some of it is so covert that it's just silence. And you're like, and walk away. It's just that spray to that situation or that person. We do it with our spouses, ladies, all the time. A lot of this is either some of you don't even bother to be covert about it. You're just constantly telling everybody what to do and bossing everybody around. And I feel like right now he's trying to speak to all of our hearts, because this control is breaking a closeness, not only with our family and with our friends in our sphere of influence that he's calling us to. It's taking that gift maybe of, you do have a gift of leadership, but because it hasn't been matured and you've stepped out into it too soon, that you're using this, it's turned into control, and it's ugly. And it's actually something that's super covert. And we want to know what is really controlling us. What's really in control? Is it us, or is it really the Father? Or are we letting our flesh, we can go back to Keisha's talk, our fleshly inclination, or it could be the enemy. I want you guys to think about, when's the first time in the Word that you can think about that there was an issue with control. The first one that I could think about was when the angels were left. They got kicked out. Why did they get kicked out? They got kicked out because they were tempted with this false sense of control. It was truly pseudo control. And because they bought in to this counterfeit control, they lost their closeness with the Holy One. Can you imagine? Can you imagine, just because you feel so in charge and you feel like I'm going in and I'm going to make everything okay, and then then you lose that closeness? It's happened to me. You guys, I've had times in my life where I try to jump in and take control of something because I can't let this fail. I can't let this hurt anybody. I can't let their lives fall apart. I can't let them get hurt. And I jump in and I'm getting that one little weed, or maybe it's a big weed, but I'm going in to get it and I'm destroying everything. And what I've ended up doing is I've ended up breaking the closeness with my Father because I wasn't listening. And I was being controlled instead by other voices that were whispering. You'll hear me say, listen for the hiss. I heard the enemy hissing, saying, they can't do this. You need to help. You need to jump in and do this. And it's so much like you should hear the same voice that happened with Adam and Hava, with Adam and Eve in the garden, when you hear him saying, are you sure that's what God really said? I mean, they had the whole garden. They had such a beautiful closeness with the Father. They had this beautiful closeness. And what they ended up doing is they ended up severing all of it, because there was all these trees everywhere, every kind of fruit. But why did they question the one place that God had control over? They had to meddle into this one thing. And what happened is they surrendered that closeness, listening to the enemy. They surrendered that closeness for some fake control. The truth is, it really was all about me. It was about me. There's holes in me about me probably needing to feel important. Can I just get really honest? About me feeling like I needed people to listen to me. Maybe I felt like I needed to have a voice somewhere, because maybe as a child I felt hushed all the time. Because when I grew up, children were seen and not heard. Was it because I felt inferior to things, so I needed to have something I felt like I needed to control? I needed to be important or feel like I was good at something, but they needed to hear me. And notice it just was a lot about me. And in all of that, I've destroyed beautiful gardens going after that one little weed that wasn't mine to pull. So who have you given your control to? We think that we're in control, and truly what's happening is we think I'm in control of all this and we're stepping in. But what we've done is we've actually let someone else be in control, whether our flesh, we end up being shackled to something else that's controlling us. I have a story that I want to share. I'm going to stop my sharing screen because I want to tell you this story. There's a reason. Those of you know it. If you've seen me in the last couple of months, I've shared the story a couple of times, but I wear this pin. I've got a couple more. This one just because I think we're going into Hanukkah and I want the light, or I'm the bride with my light ready but this is significant to me for a reason. When I was a little girl, I had my family members who were staying at my house, and one of the little girls was the same age as me, and there was a couple younger ones. We had gone to Thrifties, and I don't know if any of you are old. Thrifties is like a little drugstore. It's like a Walgreens or something. It's Thrifties, and they used to have ice cream, and we would go there, get ice cream. We had gone there, and when we were there, everybody was talking about getting gifts for Mother's Day. They were going on and on and on about how everybody was going to buy gifts. We need to get cards, and I could overhear all this. And I'm little. I'm like 5 or 6 years old, and I'm hearing them talk about how they needed to get these gifts. So when we're staying there, they're pointing out these really beautiful pins, and they were sitting on this table, and they were so beautiful. And I was staring at them, and when everyone started to walk away, I grabbed 3 of them and put them in my mouth. And they're pins. Like, for me to grab them, I had to undo them. And so they have the pin that was poking me in the mouth, everything. When I got home, I took them out and I was hiding them in my room. And when the little girl who was visiting saw, I went and told on me. So when she's telling on me, my sister was there. My sister starts to tell everybody how, when you steal from Thrifties, they make you go in the back of the store and you get put in thrifty jail. And all they're going to give you is they're just going to give you pills all day long. And that's all you're going to get to eat is pills. And the more she said it, the more terrified I was. All I'm going to get to eat is pills. And you have to wear these weird clothes. You just get water and pills, no toys. And they put you in a cage. And I mean, you can imagine she was going on and on. And my mom and dad were just rolling their eyes. That's not going to happen. But I believed her because she obviously must know something. So my dad ended up telling me we needed to go back to Thrifties because we needed to go take the pins back. And we had to tell the man what I had done. I was petrified. I was so scared because surely he was taking me to my doom, and I'm saying goodbye to everyone. Goodbye. I'll see you never. Like, I'm leaving for the last time in my family. My dad takes me to Thrifties. We have these little pins and I'm holding them. Obviously the story ends good because I'm wearing it, right? I'm holding these pins. And as we get there, my dad makes me explain to the people what happened and why I gave him what had happened, and I stole them. And there's this pause, and the manager's staring there, and he looks at my dad, and then and my dad steps in and says, "I'll pay for them. I'm going to pay them for her, and her and I can work this out at home." And my dad gave them, "Would you please ring these up?" And the man rang them up, and my dad gave him the money after I had apologized for what I had done. And my dad took me out and he sat me in the car and told me that there was anything I ever needed again, that I didn't have to take control over it. All I had to do was ask him. If I just had asked him, he would have bought those for me to give my mom for Mother's Day. That I didn't need to steal it. I didn't need to take it on my own. And I didn't have to go through all that drama of being scared of all the lies that my sister was trying to tell me, or the girl who's staying, who's trying to say. None of that had happened. It was actually my niece. She had a daughter the same age as me, which you might be on here, Gwen. This was happening, and she's sitting in the car, and he took it for me. Now, my mom has since passed away, and those are the things that I cherish these now and wear them often and tell the story as much as I can, because my dad, he took control of things. And I didn't need to. And when we come to him like a child, we don't have to be in control. He's got this. And he was showing me that, even in this, reminding me of this story as a child. that I went through all of this stuff, the pain of having these in my mouth, so scared because I knew it was wrong, because I was hiding them and I didn't want someone to know, because I knew that the stealing was wrong. But no matter what, my dad still paid the price for me. He didn't disown me. He held my hand the whole entire time. And I just want to share that with you because I want you to know that you don't have to take control of some of those things that are happening in your life. Because what happens is that we grab onto that, then we grab onto fear and anxiety, then it turns into panic. And then for a lot of us, maybe it manifests as overwhelm. And all he's saying is, get close to me. That's what he's wanting to do right now. He's wanting us to stop changing in this counterfeit control, the counterfeit that we have to do things on our own, that we have to take care of anything. And we have to put him in his hands. And he's saying, just get close to me. And this is something, you guys, I am preaching this over and over and over because I believe that this is a clarion call to all of us. He wants us to be close to him. He wants us to be sitting next to his side. How do you build a house? How does a wise woman build a house? She better be sitting next to her father, who's giving her the instructions. She better be sitting next to her father, who's guiding and directing her through every single thing. That closeness is so much more valuable than the control. Because I can promise you now, I'm going to ruin you. You're going to hear it over and over. When you reach to go do something or say something, you're going to say, oh, it's not my weed to pull. There's 3 questions that I always go through when I'm deciding, do I need to step in? Do I need to say something right here? I stop and I do get close to my father and I ask him, Father, is this something that needs to be said? And this is something you need to write down. Doesn't need to be said. The second question that I ask him is, am I the one that needs to say this? Father, is this my weed to pull? Do I need to say it? And then the third thing that I ask him is now the time that it needs to be said? Because it might need to be said, but I might not be the one who's supposed to say it. Because if you remember that story of the harvesters, you remember what happened in that story? What happened in that story, you have a field owner, the landowner, you have the workers, and you have the harvesters. And notice that they all had different jobs. You have the landowner who's overseeing everything, not freaked out, by the way, that these seeds got planted. You have the workers who are the ones in the middle of the field. They're the ones in the process. They're the ones watching things grow. They're the ones panicking. And women, I feel like that's us, right? In our homes. We're the ones who are working. We're the ones who see the day-to-day things. And we also see when something's not quite right in our homes and also in our spouses, in our children, especially our grown children, we see things. And can I just speak life to you today? Most of the time, it's not your weed to pull. Most of the time, your father's going to say, does this need to be said? Not, it might need to be said, but not by you and not right now. That's what he was telling the laborers, right? He said, yes, I see the weeds. You're right. They're there. But it's not your weed to pull. And now's not the time to do it. I have someone appointed that they know how to do it and they know when to do it. Why? Because if they pulled that weed out, the huge holes that those leave. Can I tell you what that looks like? And I'm going to give I have 2 examples. One example happened this morning. This morning, I was talking to my husband about a trip that we want to take or some trips that I'd like to take. And I said something to him about how that wasn't life-giving. I'll keep it that way. It wasn't very life-giving about how I would prefer to do this trip this way, because if we did it his way, that didn't work for me and it wasn't. And I watched his face just shrink. I watched as I said to him, and let me just be fully disclose area. I'll just be transparent. I was talking about going, and I was saying sometimes my husband has some, he has issues with PTSD, and there could be sometimes he might be triggered, and sometimes traveling might not be very fun. He might get agitated or frustrated, and we would really need to put a plan in place to make sure that we could minimize those triggers. We could do that. But that's not the way I said it. The way I said it was basically came across as I'd rather go with someone else. And I watched the hole as I pulled that weed out. Instead of letting the Father continue the healing he's been doing, which has been amazing. But the hole that I saw just, and I immediately started repenting. But I heard the Father say, you can't unsay that now. It's something that hole, I might try to put dirt in it. I might try to fill it all back in right now by saying, oh, but honey, you know what I mean? What I meant to say is, and try to hurry up and put the hole, but I can't unsay what I just said. And I adore him. And it wasn't my weed to pull. It wasn't something I needed to say. For some reason, no filters were on. I don't know what's happening. I'm going to blame the Dayquil. My heart hurts. But I want to give you a good example. One of you shared, and I didn't get permission from you yet to, I think you're on here, didn't give me permission to give your name. And she was praying for her husband. Her husband's not following Torah. He's still doing certain things. He's still following, some things that she would prefer to do it a different way. She's like, he needs to pray more. He needs to worship more. He needs to go through Torah with me. So she's been praying and everything else. Of course, he's been pushing away. And then randomly this week, he says, what if they went to church on Sunday and she's like, oh, because she's being obedient and submitting and doing, which I'm going to tell you, that submission to your husband or doing those things with him. Please, that's your first covenant. Honor him in that. That's a whole nother thing we need to go into later. But this is the thing. If you're honoring him, it's as if you're honoring God. It's unto him. So she did that. She's doing this. And what he did was he comes home and says, I would love it if we could read the word, maybe like 10 or 15, let's like 15 minutes a day. I'm probably going to mess the story up, but for say 15 minutes a day, we're going to read, let's read together. And she's like, yes. Okay, well, I'm doing this. She's about to say, I'm doing this study in James right now. So let's do James every day. So that way I have good insight and I can tell you all the things. And God's all, No. She's like, okay, we'll do the Torah portion because then, we'll be doing this together, but I'll be able to give, I have so much to give in this and I can help. Nope. She was like, so do you have any suggestions, what you would like to read? And he says, I think we should start in Revelations. Okay. Revelations. She's like, well, of course we're going to start in Revelations because that's the one book I don't have any input on. Not one moment that I can't just be, if you say it this way, did you know that the Hebrew and I have nothing. This is something we're literally going to do it together. But because she submitted to that and she wasn't trying to get it and be bossy and trying to know more and I mean, she's a fellow nurse. So, we all have a little nurse ratchet in us because we have to get people where they need to do. We have to help them. We got to, I don't know if I have anybody else who feels that way and you're not even a nurse, but you just know, even as a woman, a mom, whatever, we're like, I was raised by some amazing controlling women. We called it helpers. We called it different things. And if you're Southern, it was always with bless your heart at the end. Oh, can you guys see? Do you guys see what he's asking of us? What he's asking is that he wants to see us be close. It's so much more valuable than that control. You saw the two different, I thought I got up and I was close with God. I got up, I was praying for all of you. Father, bless them. I'm getting ready. I'm having my coffee, but I wasn't really close to him and I wasn't waiting and letting him speak into my heart. Whereas my friend, she actually took a pause and was actually being emotionally intelligent enough to stop when he said stop. And she heard him and she let her husband bring that forth. Instead, for me, I pulled something and I made a hole that I don't even know how to repair. A lot of times, again, we're choosing control over closeness because control is really comfortable, you guys, right? Control is so comfortable. I know how to do that because I'm in charge. I can control the situation. We almost wear a badge that says, oh, I'm a control freak. Oh, I like, whatever. This is a problem because what's happening is we're choosing that control and it's counterfeit. Again, this is the first time the enemy tried to kill us. He tried to kill us. He tried to take us out of the garden. We were so close to him that he named us so that we could name everything else. That's how close we were. He was passing down like, I'm going to just give you you're going to get to act in my power. You're going to get to walk in my power. I'm going to be, and you're going to be so close to me that you stand in for me. And isn't that what happened in the upper room, right? When the Holy Spirit came, it's like you're going to go out in power and authority. You get to step out in his authority. Is it going to be counterfeit control, or will it truly be his authority out of the closeness? Because that counterfeit control will kill you. It will give you panic. It'll give you fear. It'll give you anxiety. I don't know if you're in a spot where your marriage is hurting. Is your marriage hurting and things are just off with your kids, or maybe it's your past that's super haunting you, the trauma. I mean, how many of you hear all the time now, everyone's saying, well, this was a trauma response. I'm doing this because of trauma. Why? Because at some point, we have traded in that closeness with our Creator. And all he wants to do, like my dad that day, he wants to hold your hand. He may take you back to the event. He may take you back to that place where you have to make teshuvah. You have to bring repentance and you have to say you're sorry. But what he did is he paid the price for it. He will pay the price for you so that you don't have to be in control, and you still get to give the gift. That gift that he gave, it's the gift that I feel like I'm in control. Like it's because it's a gift he's given me as far as leadership, strategy. There's things he's given me, but when it's out of balance and I'm not close to the Holy One, it turns into bossy. It turns into not life-giving at all. But just like these pins from my mom, it was a gift that my dad ended up buying for me so then I could give to others. I hope that's sinking a minute. There's a gift he's given you, especially women, your leaders in your home, with your friends, with everything. There's a gift he's given you so you can give it back. Not so you can boss it or control it. Because most of the time, if you listen and you're close, he's going to be telling you, do you trust me? This is not your weed to pull. You don't have to have the answers. You just need to stay close. You don't have to have the money. You just have to stay close. That closeness is so much more valuable than that control. I wonder if this will let me play it. Yeah. I just want to ask you guys while this is playing, would you just take a minute and maybe throw the things down at his feet that you felt like you've been in control of? Marriage, kids, work, friendships, some of the weeds you've already pulled, and there's whole.
You asked me to let go, but I thought I'd
just give those to him right now.
Afraid of surrender and what I don't know. I've always had a plan, but now I'm so weary and I can't see clearly. Forgot who I am. So won't you make my eyes, my ears, your ears, my tears, your tears.
Father, we surrender.
And won't you make my hands, your hands, my feet, your feet, my dreams, your dreams. I give up control.
Father, we give it up. We're those little girls, Dad, and we just hold on to your hand. Thank you for paying the price so that we have gifts to give others. Healing the pain and the wounds.
I give up control. Can I speak honestly? I've still got some questions, still fighting the tension. I need some relief. No, I'm no Superman. This is my confession. been learning my lesson, help me understand. So won't you make my eyes, my ears, your ears, my tears, your tears. And won't you make my hands, your hands, my feet, your feet, my dreams, your dreams. I give up control.
Oh, Father, let us be the ones that bring life to every room we walk into.
Body, mind, and soul. Oh, can't do this on my own. No, I give up control. I will raise my voice and sing. I will raise my voice and sing. It's all I've got left to bring. I will raise my voice and sing. I will raise my voice and sing.
Father, we bless you. Thank you, Father, for loving us when we're crazy. No more are we going to accept the counterfeit control. Instead, Father, we want to stand right next to you, Father. We raise our voices right now, Father. We give it up. We stand next to you, Father. We stand next to you, Father. We grab onto your hand. Father, that whatever you're doing, that's what we're doing. Whatever you're saying, that's what we're saying. I speak healing now to every woman that's listening. I speak healing to the relationships that have been broken. Healing to the lives that have been touched in the way that you didn't intend. But Father, that she now would be the hands that would heal. The hands that would water and bring life into the soil, Father, as opposed to worrying about pulling the weeds. Instead, she would love and water and nourish the things in her life, all the spheres of influence, her family, her friends, and her work, and ministry, and congregations. That she'd be bringing strength, Father, to those atmospheres and not bringing holes. Thank you, Father, that your closeness is going to do that. We give up control today, Father. Amen. Amen. I pray that was a blessing to you. I see that there's lots of comments that are in here. I just remind you before I give you guys a good break here is that remember that the way a plant will grow, it's not, the one thing we need to focus on is making sure it has light, making sure that it is fertilized, making sure it's watered and fed. That's what brings the strong plant, not focusing on the little weeds that are growing around it. That's not what brings a strong plant. That's not our job. He hasn't assigned us to pull weeds out. I think it's rare that he actually assigns us to be the one who actually goes in and pulls things out for someone. You know, you should have hyperlinks of Yeshua saying, don't focus on the speck in your brother's eye when you have the big log. Imagine the damage this big log is doing, going in and trying to find this speck. He's told us over and over and over again, it's not your weed to pull. In my house, we say it's none ya business. It's none ya. Your husband's walk, your husband's spiritual life, it's none ya. Your children, if they're adults especially, it's none ya. Your children, you can establish things, you can bring life to them, you can guide and direct them in those things. But ultimately, the closeness that they have to their creator is none ya. Your friend's family, your friend's things, it's none ya. It's just not your weed to pull. Instead, love on them, pour water on them, bring the sunlight in, because your role as an Isha, we talk about this all the time. Isha has the hey at the end. The Ish, the man, the Isha, the woman has that hey at the end. And what does that hey do? It brings it, opens that, it's that opening of the hey, the window that brings revelation into the situations. It brings life. It brings fresh air. Is that how people feel when you leave the room? Or do they just feel like you were so bossy and you just are always telling them what to do and a control freak? I'm excited that you all took off that badge today or your sash that said you were the control freak and you just lay it down. And instead, you're grabbing hands with your Father and jumping in and being close to him. What a blessing. I'm excited. So for those of you who don't know, this whole talk, along with so much more, is part of a book that I've almost finished. It's called It's Not My Weed to Pull. It will be ready the first part of summer. So I will for sure let you know when that is out, and probably step on your toes even harder. So I love you guys so much. I love you so much. And I'm just praying for all of you that he blesses and keeps you, that his face turns to you, and you see him again, the closeness, that face-to-face closeness, and then you feel his shalom in all situations because of that. Just be blessed.